I'm about to be joined by Bob Holt of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Still have time to get your answers to the text questions of the day. What is your favorite Mexican beer / margarita flavor? And where does Cinco de Mayo rank in your favorite list of drinking holidays? Clay Henry, he texted in. He said Pacifico would be his favorite. That is a good one. Bob, what's your favorite Mexican beer? Or are you more of a margarita guy? And what's your favorite margarita flavor?
I don't really drink much anymore. I never drank a lot. I guess if you like a frozen margarita, I guess whatever a regular margarita is, but frozen, that'd probably be my preference on a holiday. I guess the Cinco de Mayo drink.
He likes the margarita flavored margarita.
Yeah. As they should. I mean, it's the original. It's tried and true.
I'm just saying, why do you always got to sweeten things up too much?
You ain't got to mess. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You don't reinvent the wheel. But Bob, one thing that Arkansas is trying to reinvent, and is Arkansas baseball trying to reinvent themselves at the plate, and it's been such a hot button issue this year, especially when we came into this year thinking, can pitching keep up with hitting? Now it's pitching is knocking it out of the park, and the hitting, well, they're basically not knocking it out of the park. I mean, is there enough time left in this regular season, especially with such a meaningful series this weekend, for the bats to get turned around and get figured out?
Yeah, I mean, they actually are hitting it out of the park. Some they're just not stringing together many other hits. I think that they had it was wild in the Ole Miss series. All their runs came on home runs. Some solos. Obviously, Diggs hit the big 3-run homer there to win. Friday night, I guess it was. But, the bullpen's been really good. Their defense is really good. Connor Nolan's been an SEC ace. Hagen Smith, pitched pretty well for a freshman. But, the offense, the batting averages, I don't have it stat in front of me, but it's not what you would think it was. And Robert Moore, who's an excellent player, his batting average is down about 50 points. Now, he's playing great defense, and he's getting some clutch hits, but it's weird because they're ranked third, right? And they're leading the West, and yet they've struggled to score runs of late. I mean, they beat UCA. No offense to UCA, they beat them 2-1 on a wild pitch. They came to life in the ninth inning the other night against Missouri State, but through 8 innings they had 2 hits, one of which was a Dylan Leach home run. But Missouri State, that starter Reese Lang, now he was a normal weekend star from Missouri State who didn't pitch Sunday because of some soreness, so he was a solid pitcher. But it's just hard to believe that Arkansas isn't hitting better, and that they just can't seem to get 2 or 3 guys hot together. They might have, Brady Slavens might get hot, or Jalen Battles or somebody might get hot, but they can't seem to sustain it, and that's really what hurt them at the end of last year. The bats kind of went to sleep against NC State after that initial game, but. I think there's still time, and like I said, defense is going to keep them in games. The bullpen's good, but if they're going to, have a shot to go to Omaha, you feel like the bats have got to pick up, and if they're going to have a shot to go to Omaha, they probably need to play at home. If they're going to play at home, they probably need to win the West. If they're going to win the West, they need to hit better. It all kind of is connected.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think just to give this fan base more confidence, because it is kind of weird to be sitting here thinking about, we're talking about a top 5 nationally ranked team, a team that is ahead of the West, and that there are so many concerns around it. I mean, we get a text from Shane from Alma who says that the Razorbacks need a Charlie Welsh. Is that something that they need? Is somebody that could come in and produce, on cue like he did? Or is it time to start looking at playing some small ball, dropping down bunts, looking and trying to do some hit and run situations instead of relying on the Earl Weaver special or just a long home run?
Well, I think Dylan Leach is a guy that maybe could beat. Now, Charlie Welsh, I mean, I don't know. I can't remember the exact numbers. He seems like he batted about 600 as a pitch hitter. I mean, he did an incredible job. I saw some. I think he's doing pretty good in the minors with the Mariners. I think it's the Aqua Sox there in Everett, Washington, near Seattle. Saw somebody retweeted today or yesterday. But Dylan Leach is a guy, and I know he's been doing it in the midweek games, and obviously that's different than SEC pitching, but he had a huge double at A&M that gave him a shot to win that game. They ended up losing 11-10, but he came in and got a double off Palish, or every that guy's name, and he basically just killed, shut down every other hitter. And Leach had a home run the other night, and he's a guy that I don't know if you wonder, well, maybe you make Michael Turner a DH more, and give Leach maybe you let him catch a game on the weekend, or do you put Leach in there at DH? Of course, if you're DHing a guy, then you can't pinch hit him necessarily where you want to. But Dylan Leach is a guy who I've been pretty impressed with his. He had a really struggle to start the year, like, I don't know, 1 for 23 or something. Then he hit for that cycle against UCA, and I get it, it's not Tennessee, but still, he went 5 for 5 with 2 home runs, 1 from each side of the plate. I don't care who you do that against. That's pretty impressive. So he's a guy. Kendall Diggs obviously had the huge hit last week, and he's gotten limited at bats. But Dave Van Horn said, he's wondered, should I give this guy more at bats? Peyton Stovall hadn't played in recent games. Dave wasn't going to start him last Saturday anyway. Then he hurt his finger. He got hit with a ground ball. He was taking ground ball to second base because that's probably where he's going to play next year. If you assume Robert Moore's gone and goes in the draft. And so, the Peyton Stovall is a really ultra-talented guy. He's a high-level recruit. He's had his moments. He's had his struggles, but maybe that's the guy when he comes back and he get it going. So they do have some other options. But, I think you just got to feel like, baseball's a long season. And, maybe it's good if they're going to be slumping, do it now. Don't do it in late May and June when the games matter the most. I mean, that doesn't mean they're going to turn it on then. But I think if through the course of a season, whether it's Major League Baseball, minor leagues, college, whatever, if you're playing 50-plus games, 60 games, you're going to have some rough spells. And I think the pitching's better than ever because of COVID. Your guys are staying in college longer, and so I think they're facing some. And I'm just not Arkansas, but everybody. I think everybody's facing some older pitchers. And you look at Ole Miss, and I mean, if you're an Arkansas fan and you're ticked off by your team's playing, how would you like to be an Ole Miss fan or a Mississippi State fan right now?
Yeah, yeah, you're right, Bob. That is very true. They have been underwhelming. Or how'd you like to be a Vandy fan? I mean, while they're still, I think, top 3 in the East, it definitely has been an underwhelming season for Vandy. Bob, I want to switch over to basketball because I saw this earlier today that Ricky Council the fourth, a transfer from Wichita State, announced today that he's put Arkansas in his top 6. Monty Bates a few days ago reportedly has Arkansas in his top 6. I thought all the spots were already full. I mean, what does this really mean for Eric Musselman and his lineup? Because you get 13 scholarships and there's 13 players already, right?
Yeah, I think there's actually 14 if you count Jalen. Might have to go back to my math. But, well, what I think it means is that if you're Eric Musselman or any other coach who's serious about trying to win a national championship and you have a shot to improve your roster, you're going to do it. And I think the days of saying, okay, the season's over, we've got our signees, we got this guy from the transfer portal, our roster is set. I think those days are over because these players are coming onto the market. Let's just call it what it is. Some of them are coming on, kind of fashionably late or unexpectedly, and you're saying, oh, I didn't know that guy was going to be available. We need to check it out with him because, I looked at Council. Richard Dampert has a story, on our website. I think it's Alabama, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Iowa State, Kansas, and I can't remember the other one. But anyway, pretty good group of schools, 3 of which are in the SEC. Well, let's say Arkansas, let's say you're Eric, and you say, well, he's a good player, but we're set. That guy signs at Alabama, and they come in here and he scores 30 or whatever. And after the game, I was kind of fired up because I was interested in Arkansas, but they didn't show any interest in me. I mean, I think in this, times have just changed. We know they've changed the last few years. They've really changed in the last few months with NIL. I mean, players are openly, just like pro athletes are saying, well, where can I get the most money? You know, I mean, the Miami player and Nigel Pack, you know, Arkansas played Kansas State, and I thought he's a pretty nice player. But if he's getting $400,000 over 2 years, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of guys that I think are better than that guy. Mm-hmm. So that being said, there's a lot of money out there, and so some of these players, like Wichita State, I have no idea what they do with NIL, but council might have said, you know what, I'm a pretty good player. Look at the kind of, like, I'm a lot better than Nigel Pack or something, or I'm as good as that guy. Look what he's getting. I'd like to go out there and get some of that too now that it's legal, and there doesn't seem to be much regulation to it. And so, but I think the bottom line is these scholarships, they're like 1-year agreements, and they start in the summer, like July 1st or something. So I think up until that point, and maybe you can get beyond there with waivers and things, I think you just have to constantly be nimble enough to try to improve your roster if you can. And if there's no guarantee Arkansas would get Ricky Council, but if they do and they feel like, well, that's a really great pickup, well, then you've got to figure out what to do with your roster then. And I'm not trying to be cold-hearted about it, but let's face it, with NIL and the portal and, you know, player movements, players are moving like never before. Coaches can move. You know, signees can decide to go to the G League. That's happened before, or play overseas. Guys sign, get in the portal, and then they leave that school, you know. Yeah. And so, I mean, I think you have to be very flexible. If you're Arkansas or anybody, like say if you're Arkansas, Alabama, Kentucky, I don't care who you are, Missouri, if there's a player available and he's interested in you and you think he can make you better, then you've got to go after that guy, because that's just the way it is nowadays. And you know, and then if you have to make roster adjustments, then you make them.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll leave it at there, Bob. I appreciate you joining us, and be interesting to see how it all does develop and unwind here in the next following days and weeks of the college basketball season. Hopefully Arkansas can get the series win against Auburn. Have a good one, Bob. We'll talk to you next week.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.